Hello, Lighthouse. Today we want to address a question more specific to marriage, but I think it has many applications to all our friendships and relationships. The question we want to briefly consider together is, how do I love my spouse during this coronavirus season? Now, in one sense, that's a simple answer, right? I must love my spouse as God has first loved me. We want our marriages to be these beautiful pictures of Christ's love for the church. But what does it mean right now in this season? Well, the coronavirus has brought many challenges, but I genuinely believe that as we respond with faith in our great God, He will do amazing things in our lives and our relationships. And God's word tells us in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. This simple verse describes how Christ humbly loved us, and I'd like us to consider just two ways this verse can help us to love our spouses like Christ during this time. So first, consider your spouse. Consider your spouse. So how can you count your spouse more significant than yourself during this time? Well, to do that, you need your awareness of what they're feeling and facing to be more valuable to you than you are to yourself. A simple way to know if you really understand your spouse and have an awareness of them is to ask 4 questions. Think eyes, ears, hands, and heart. Eyes, what is my spouse seeing? What relationships or situations look big to them right now? Are they seeing their child's disrespect on display? Are they seeing their loved ones getting sick? Seeing other families on social media making COVID-19 look really easy? Then ears. What is my spouse hearing? What voices are influencing their heart right now? Are they bombarded with news reports telling them that the virus is just getting worse? Are they surrounded with voices that are just demanding different things from them all the time? Are they hearing hopeless and fearful comments from friends, neighbors, or social media? And then hands. What is my spouse doing or longing to do? Are they wishing they could hug a loved one or be hugged by a loved one? Are they wanting to finish a project that was started before shelter in place began? Are they wanting to be faithful at home and at work, but finding the line between home and work completely blurred in this season? Are they longing to be with a loved one who's in the hospital, but they're not allowed to be there? Then heart. What truths are encouraging their worship of Christ right now? What temptations are they facing that pull them from Christ right now? How has their relationship with God just been generally in this season? Can you answer that? Perhaps they're seeking shelter from COVID in snacking and screen time, online shopping, right? The deals are awesome right now. Maybe excessive sleeping or excessive exercising, or indulging in sinful escapes like lust or substance abuse. Right? Do you see your spouse? Do you see them? Or are you distracted because you are the most significant person during this season to yourself? Right? We will not know how to love our spouses until we can see them. And all of this comes through just time spent with them, listening to them, and staying genuinely curious about how they are doing. If you want help with this step, we've included this quarantine questions for couples as an attachment below in the description to help you grow your own understanding of one another as you shelter in place together. So once we have an understanding of our spouse, this allows us to move toward them. And that's our second point. Move toward your spouse. Move toward your spouse. Once you have built this understanding of your spouse and they're more significant than yourself, then you can begin to demonstrate love in tangible Christ-like ways. So here are just a few examples of that. First, create an opportunity for your spouse to do something they enjoy. Can you watch the kids or take care of the home while your spouse enjoys a quiet time with the Lord, goes for a run, reads a book, plays a game, catches up with a friend or family member, maybe writes in a journal, or perhaps just sits still in a quiet room without a child banging on the door? Second, make time in the evening for sharing and praying together as a couple through the worries and anxieties of the day. And there's so many worries that want to attach themselves to the changes we're facing. Perhaps you're living with reduced funds and resources, maybe living with changes in your social life. Maybe you're homeschooling. Maybe you're living with the challenges of teleworking and wrangling small children. Or simply you feel trapped in, like you're trapped in the movie Groundhog Day, living the same day over and over. Or there's so many challenges that can arise, each with its own anxieties. So it's vital to bear one another's burdens to the Lord in prayer together. Third, create shelter-in-place date nights. Maybe take turns with your spouse to plan creative date nights in your home. Each spouse could try to plan something that they think the other spouse would appreciate. Fourth, serve others together. Here, you and your spouse get to brainstorm together about ways to serve the people that God has placed around your marriage, like your children, extended family, church family, neighbors. By sharing God's love with others together, it allows the love of God to just be rehearsed within your own marriage. Fifth, say no in order to say yes to your spouse. Perhaps you're facing seemingly endless opportunities during the season. I mean, you can really be as busy as you want to be right now. And if this is you, keep in mind that whenever we say yes to one thing, even good things, we are saying no to something else. And it could likely be that we are saying no to time with our spouses. So consider how to carefully protect your marriage from the busyness that could really consume you in this season. Finally, we must remember that the greatest challenge we face in loving our spouse during this season is our own sinful hearts. At the end of Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says that it's most natural for us, for our sinful hearts, to always want to return evil for evil and to only love those who love us. But what makes Christ's love so miraculous is that he loved us in the face of wrong, or he responded to our evil with his good. Because of Christ's love for us in the gospel, love in the face of wrong demonstrates the love of Christ more than any other display of love that I've mentioned in this video. In this season of suffering, tensions are high. It's likely that you and your spouse will sin against each other more than ever. So what will your love look like in those moments? When you are wronged in the coming days and weeks, will you respond by bringing the healing love of Christ to that moment? If your spouse is short with you, explodes, withdraws, can you move toward them with a genuine question, a gesture of care, a humble confession of sin, a word of encouragement, or maybe just a moment of prayer? This is love that looks like Christ. May God grant his love to each one of our marriages this season for his glory.